Hello. In this hour, we're going to be looking at Sunday school lesson for March the 2nd, 2025. Um, I, I'm not going to lie to you. I don't have the book for the English class, so I'm going to translate everything as best as I can. And I'm sorry that I'm moving stuff around, but we're going to get it done, okay? So this lesson this week is the first one in the Sunday school book that they gave us. I'm going to be using the Spanish one. So, like I said, that's why I'm going to be translating. Um, the lesson in Spanish is, well, in translated English says, the signs of his glory. And the central idea, according to the Spanish lesson, is the signs of the signs that Jesus uses in our lives are for, or the signs and miracles, anything he wants to use in our lives are for his glory. And so we're going to be looking at John chapter 2, and we're going to be looking verses 1 through 11, and we're going to be breaking down those verses into three parts. And I'm going to be reading all three parts because we are it's very important to actually look at all three parts of this one. They're not super long. So I'm going to be reading them, and then you guys follow along, and I will explain to you these parts of the lesson, okay? So first off, we're going to be looking at John 1 through 4, and it says the following way. The next day there was a wedding celebration in the village of Cana in Galilee. Jesus' mother was there, and Jesus and the disciples were also invited to the celebration. The wine supply ran out during the festivities, so Jesus' mother told Jesus, "They have no more wine." He answered her, "Dear woman, that's not our problem." Jesus replied, "My time has not yet come." All right, so this version is a little different than the Spanish lesson that we're looking at, and I'll explain to you that in a little bit. But in this Bible verse, in this lesson, where we're looking at it, and it's different than a lot of the ones that we had before, right? We were using books from the Old Testament Psalms, a little bit of New Testament in Colossians and Hebrews, but this one we have a direct uh, Bible verse that has direct ties to Jesus because it involved him in what they were doing. And so in this lesson we're seeing that there was a celebration going on, and it was very traditional that you had everything going. You had everything. Nothing ran out because it was kind of an embarrassment for them, right? And so this is not about the material things in this lesson, but it is about how consistent, right? This wedding was going on, and how they were meant to have everything in order, and especially the wine. When people ran out of wine, according to what we were reading, it was quite embarrassing, right? And so before anything happened, I don't know if it ran out or if it was starting to run out, or it was very critically low or whatever. But the case is that Jesus' mom decided that she was gonna approach Jesus about the wine running out. Now, she didn't approach Jesus as in a mom approaches, "Hey, go take your brother to work," or giving him orders. Um, she approached him as in, "Hey, I'm trusting. I'm looking for him. I'm not going to any other. I'm not, looking for any other vendors. I'm trusting you, Jesus, not my son, right? Jesus, right?" Um, the other thing we could see here is that Jesus' mom had compassion on the people, and she did not want the people hosting the wedding to be embarrassed. Now, we could look at that, and we could also say compare it with our daily lives. Be like, someone at our church is going, someone in our lives. It doesn't even have to be a church. It could be a coworker. It could be anybody. We see that they're having problems. We could have compassion on that person, and even in our families, right? And we could be, I'm going to go to Jesus and I'm going to pray for this person, right? Instead of trying to figure out things on our own or trying to do things the way that we want to. Jesus' mom went to Jesus, right? Same thing with us. We go to Jesus and we look for him because we know that he actually tells us to go look for him. He wants us. In the Bible, it mentions several times, hey, come look for me, talk to me, tell me what it is that you need, right? And so Mary, knowing that Jesus was Jesus, went to him. Went to him like we should be going to Jesus. And we should be looking for him and trying to give him our problems, our situations, right? The third thing that we saw in this verse, and obviously can't be ignored, is the fourth part where he says, hey, I know it says it's not our problem, but he basically said, let me see if I have it right here. What is it that you need from me? It's not my time yet, right? Um, I guess a nicer way of not saying, "Hey, that's not our problem," right? I know this version is little more, a little different, but Jesus is God, right? And so, therefore, if Jesus knew that he wasn't supposed to do something at this time, he probably wouldn't have been there to begin with. He wouldn't have put himself in that situation, but he knew exactly what was going to happen. And even though it wasn't his time, he still did it. He still, was still there, and he was still aware of what's going to happen. And as we see later on, I mean, obviously it happens. He does it. And again, it's because God is never too busy for us. It's never the wrong time to come to God and ask him for things, right? And so he listened to her because she came to him instead of going to look for something else, right? And when we do the same thing, we're going to see that those good things happen. And let's go ahead and check out the next part so that we could advance in this lesson. It says, in the second part, it says on verses 5-8, it says, but his mother told the servants, do whatever he tells you. Standing nearby were 6 stone water jars, used for the Jewish ceremonial washing. Each could hold 20 to 30 gallons. Jesus told the servants, fill the water jugs with water. When the jars were filled, he said, now dip some out and take it to the master of ceremonies, so the servants followed the instructions. Now, here in this part, we see, like I said, Jesus' mom came to him because he felt compassion for the people, right? She wanted to help out. Same thing, right? We could pray for other people. We could ask for people, even for ourselves. We could come to Jesus instead of going to something else. Jesus is never too busy for us. But she not just told him and went and sat down. She went and explained to the people who were there that were following, some servants. Where's it at? Yeah, but his mother told the servants, do whatever he tells you. 2 things right here. She just didn't go sit down and let him deal with it. She went and prepared the things, and then these servants listened to Jesus, and it happened. Now, what does that tell us? It tells us that when we want to ask Jesus for something, we also have to be sure. We have to be sure, and we have to be ready. Ask him, be prepared to do whatever it is that he needs us to do as well, right? Because again, we can't just be asking God for things and be like, all right, God, I need this miracle. I'm just going to sit here and I'm going to wait for you to answer me. It's like, no. It could be through, hey, I need to pray more. I'm praying for this petition, but I need to pray more. I need to do what it is. I need to keep doing whatever it is Jesus wants me to do. I need to keep reading my Bible. I need to keep testifying. Whatever it is that Jesus needs us to do while he's answering is what we need to do. And when we obey that, things like what's happened right here, right? Fill up the jars, and the jars had been filled out. He said, now dip some out and take some to the master of ceremonies, and follow the instructions. So he turned the water into wine. And again, it's not about the wine. It's not about that. It's about the fact that Mary, or Jesus' mom, trusted him, came to him, trusted him. The servants listened, and Jesus answered. Jesus wants to answer us. He wants to give us what it is that we ask him, and we have to be satisfied. We have to be happy with what he answers us. But if we're asking for something, he's gonna answer us. Uh, but when we do what we're supposed to do with him, he's gonna just gonna give us that simple thing. He's gonna give us way more than we ask for, right? And I see this. I kind of see this, and I compare this to uh, the part of the Bible where uh, God asked Solomon, what it is that he wanted, and Solomon asked, "Hey, I just want wisdom to be able to, run your kingdom, and I want to do what's correct with you." And God was so happy with it that He's like, "Man, you said the magic words. I'm not only going to give you wisdom, more wisdom than anybody has ever had. I'm going to make you the richest person and powerful person because your heart was in the right place." When we figure out that we want to come to Jesus and look for him to help us out, he's going to be helping us. But we got to trust him. And when we trust him, he's going to answer our prayers, and he's going to answer what it is that we want him to answer. Now, again, I have to be honest, it's not always going to be like perfect the way we want it to be, because again, his plan is perfect. So what we might be asking, might be what our human nature wants, but his plan is perfect. So whatever he answers is going to be perfect for us, right? And so let's look at this last verse in this lesson. It's John 2:9 and 11, and it says as follows. It says, "When the master of ceremonies tasted the water that was now wine, not knowing where it had come from, though of course the servants knew, he called the bridegroom over. 'A host always serves the best wine first,' he said. 'Then, when everyone has had a lot to drink, he brings out the less expensive wine. But you have kept the best until now.'" This miraculous sign in Cana in Galilee was the first time Jesus revealed his glory, and his disciples believed in him. So in this last part, no one came, or Jesus' mom wasn't like, "Hey, it was my son that did that. I need to give him the thanks." No one, right? The master of ceremonies came to the bridegroom and said, "Hey, this is what you did with the wine. It was amazing. You did a good job," and give him the credit. And in this part right here, where we could see is when we're tying everything together is when we come to Jesus and we want him to answer something and we ask him for something, we trust him and we listen to him, he's going to help us. But he doesn't just help us to be like, "Oh, okay, I'm good. Oh, thank you, Jesus. I'm good. I'm going to continue with my life." It's not like, no. He answers us because he wants us to be showing his glory through it, guys. He wants us to be able to display that glory so other people could come and ask us, "Hey, wow, that's amazing. This is going on in your life." Or, "Man, you had this problem and you keep looking for God and God answers you, and I want to know about that." And it gives us an opportunity to share his gospel. And it gives us a chance to be of good testimony. And it gives us a chance just to give him glory, because at the end of the day, everything he does is for his honor and glory. And we have to be willing to go back and give him thanks, right? I was reading, actually, I was listening to a podcast this week, and it was talking about this certain story that I kind of relate to this right here. And it was talking about how a pilot of some sort of would go every so often. I don't know if it was every week or every month or whatever. And he took a bucket of shrimp or fish or something like that to a bay, and he would feed seagulls there. And so the story goes, right, he goes on through a podcast, and at the end of the podcast he said, "Hey, you know why this person goes to the bay, or to the dock every week or every so often, and gives the seagulls a shrimp and or fish?" He's all like, "Because he had wrecked in a plane, if I'm not mistaken, and he was in the ocean, and their food supply had ran out, And so they were desperate and they started praying, asking God for help. And all of a sudden, a seagull landed on, I can't remember if it was on his head or just on the boat that they were. Long story short, they took the animal, they cooked it, they ate it, survived. I don't know if they cooked it right because I don't know if they had fire on that, but they ate it, is the point, right? They used the other parts to get fish, so on and so forth. They survived. Thanks to that seagull where they were, that had no business in that area because it was super far away from land. And so for him, it was like important to go back and kind of remember that, and not just remember that, but be kind of thankful. And his way of showing gratitude to the seagulls was the fact that he would go back and he would give them uh, shrimp or fish every so often, right? We see this right here. God does incredible things in our lives, but it's not for us, it's for His glory. Everything that He does, guys, all the signs are of His glory. Every miracle, everything, every time He answers a prayer for us, every time He gives us an answer, whether it's something that we want to hear or we don't want to hear, it's for His honor and glory. And so we, in this lesson, right, the things that we could see is we look for God, for Jesus, we look for Him, we trust Him. He's going to do amazing things, but He's going to do amazing things because He wants us to glorify Him and also get His message out, right? And so today I leave you with two things. First thing is for us believers, right? If we have a very bad tendency of not looking for Him enough for Him to answer our prayers, we need to look for Him. We need to look for Him, but we also need to make sure that we're doing our part so that He answers our prayers. Now, I'm not saying that He's not going to answer our prayers. I'm not saying that, God's going to blackmail us. Like, no, He doesn't work that way. But while we're waiting for Him to answer, it's always better in our best interest to be occupied with the things of Him, so that way we also feel like we participated in what He was asking us, right? He's not only going to listen to us, but He's also going to answer us more than we even ask for, because He knows our hearts and He knows our desires. But when He does, whether He does it in the way we want to or the way He needs to, we always need to go back and give Him thanks for it, and we always need to figure out a way to glorify Him, because He is the one that does the things for us, right? We can't do anything by ourselves without Him. And last, what I always pretty much mention every week, right? We could come to God, we could come to Jesus and ask Him for what it is that we need. But if we don't have Him in our hearts, then it's pretty much in vain, because it's not going to happen. So tonight, I also ask you, if you don't have Christ in your heart, right, I would like to invite you to say this prayer. Hey, God, I know that I'm a sinner. I know that You died on the cross for me and resurrected on the third day. I believe that You resurrected, from that cross. And I want You to come into my life. If you say that at this moment, God will come into your life and you will be a born again child. And from that moment on, you are welcome to come to Jesus, just like Mary did that evening, and have that trust that God is going to answer your prayers, and He will. And He will answer us and He will guide us, because it's going to be for His glory. And our lives represent His glory. All right, guys. Thank you so much for listening. Hope you have a great week.